He say, follow me.
The harvest is plentiful, laborers few. The retelling's here to share the good news of JESU, of JESU.
What up, what up, what up? We're here with another episode, and it's called You Picking Up What I'm Laying Down? Are you though? Are you? This story can be found in the New Testament. It's a parable called the sower, and it's something that Jesus told the people that were following him. And he sometimes told parables to help explain the kingdom. So you can find this in Matthew 13, 1 through 23. You can also find it in Mark 4, 1 through 20, and Luke 8, 4 through 15. So, you know what I'm telling you? You know what I'm telling you?
You gonna tell them.
Read it for yourself. So make sure you go ahead and read it for yourself, and we're going to go ahead and just jump into it. So there was a sower, and what he was doing was sowing seeds. So he out here throwing seeds, and it was landed on different types of ground. So the seed landed on the road. The birds came and ate it up. Then it also landed on rocks. And the plants quickly sprang up because of no depth of soil. And the sun came out and scorched the plants. They withered away because they had no root. It also fell on thorns, and the thorns came up and choked it out. But it actually fell on good soil also. So there was some seed that made it to the good soil.
Well, thank goodness.
Right? It fell everywhere. I didn't think it was going to make it.
Throwing everywhere.
And when it landed on the good soil, it did yield grain, sometimes 100, 60, or 30 times as much as was sown. And so what does this mean? Let's break it down. So what God was trying to say is when the seed fell on the road and the birds came and ate it up, what that meant is sometimes you will receive the good news, the truth of who Jesus is. You'll receive the good news, and what happens is you either don't quite understand it or grasp it, and then whatever did plant, the evil one comes and snatches it away. Whatever did take root in your heart, the evil one comes and snatches it away. When the seed fell on the rocks and the plants quickly sprang up, but the sun came out and scorched it, and then they withered away. What Jesus was trying to share here is that there are people who are going to hear the good news, and they're going to receive it with such joy. They're going to welcome it into their hearts, but then trials and tribulations, pressure and persecution from the world is going to come, and they are going to stumble and fall away and abandon the truth. Then it falls on the thorns. When it falls on the thorns and it chokes it out of them, what Jesus was trying to reveal here is that people are going to hear the good news, but they're going to be distracted by the world, by the riches of the world, the things of the world. It's going to look so much better to them. And so instead of following the truth and the Jesus, then what they're going to do is they're going to follow the ways of Jesus. They're going to follow the ways of the world. And then there's the good soil. The ones who are going to receive it with joy, and it's going to bear much fruit, sometimes 160, 30 times as much as was sown. And so what that means is people are going to share the good news. We're going to receive it, and then we're going to go out and share it. And it's going to continue to bear fruit because it fell on good soil. And so that is what Jesus calls his disciples. The disciples receive it. They learn of the good news, and then we go out and we share what we learned, which is exactly what the disciples did. They sat and they learned, which made them a disciple of Jesus. They learned from Jesus, and then they became apostles, and they went out and were teachers. So they were now sharing what they learned from Jesus with others. They didn't keep it to themselves.
It's too exciting to keep to yourself.
It is, because it's such good news. And so there were a couple of different points, a couple of things that I learned from this. And when Jesus spoke in parables, it was for a couple of reasons, right? So first of all, it was an attention grabber.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't like a good story? I like a good story.
I love a good story.
So a good story is an attention grabber, like, ooh. And it kind of helps with understanding sometimes, like, when Jesus was speaking about some things about the kingdom, like especially when he talks about it's easier for the camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for the rich to get into the kingdom of heaven. Like, huh? Like when you hear those words, right? And he's using it as a metaphor. Mm-hmm. But it's like, a camel to one, that's impossible. Right? That's the first thing you think. I'm like, what? This guy's making no sense. And that's what some people think. Oh, he's hitting the liquor. He is a drunkard. They thought he was talking crazy, and especially when you talk about some of the miracles that he was performing out here, they were like, oh. And when they were talking about when Jesus was talking about being the Son of Man and him, God being his father, like, people were thinking he was a little bit loony, or he was actually just hitting the bottle a little too hard. And so when you hear these things, it's like, what? So sometimes telling them in the form of a parable was just a little bit more palatable.
Yeah.
It's something a little bit more digestible.
Yeah, I think you have to remember too, like, this is a huge teaching tool. In church today, we have fog machines, we have strobe lights, we have the screens projecting things out, big old speakers. Jesus didn't have that. That technology was not here.
Right.
So he had to be able to tell stories in a way that people would remember things. So you might not remember every single word he said, but you can envision the sower throwing those seeds.
Yeah, and because a lot of them, that was their livelihood. A lot of people worked in the field back then, so they could absolutely relate to what was being said. And she hit my next point. Easy to remember, and then also the truth was revealed to those spiritually ready. So those who were ready to receive the word, like itching to receive this good news. And then also the truth is concealed from those who reject the truth. And so when we talk about how it fell on the road, how it fell on rocky ground, how it fell on the thorns, those are the ones who are rejecting the truth. And so the truth is kind of concealed from them, especially the ones on the road, because they didn't quite grasp it. They didn't quite understand what was being said. And so it's like those who have ears to hear will hear it and receive it. And those who didn't have ears to hear wouldn't. Like, they heard it. It's almost like reading the Bible. Like, sometimes reading the Bible, people will miss it. And the people who do get it, it's because you have the Holy Spirit helping to lead you, guide you, help you understand what God is trying to show you or tell you. It is nothing that we do on our own. Like, I have read the Bible and been like, what? I don't quite understand it. And sometimes I prayed for God to reveal his truth to me in what I was reading. And sometimes it would happen immediately, and sometimes it wouldn't happen immediately. It happened like the third, fourth, fifth, eighth time that I read it. Or sometimes, like, the beauty of community is being able to talk it over with others and people be able to share what they got from it. And then having the Holy Spirit help you to discern if what the people are sharing with you is the truth, right?
Like, the ones on the road definitely got me, because there have been many a time when I've read something in the Bible and I said, wait, let me read that again. Let me read that again. Let me ask ChatGPT. Let me call my homegirl. Let me ask my pastor. So it's okay to read the Bible and not understand something, but don't stay in that place of not understanding. You know, ask God to reveal himself to you. Check in with your circle of people. Keep looking for that knowledge.
Right. And I think part of the problem with the church is, like, people aren't being discipled well. Right? They're not teaching them, showing them how to learn and understand the word for themselves and what the word means when you're reading it, because everything isn't so cut and dry. It's not so black and white. Sometimes you absolutely need context. You need the verse before it, after it, the whole chapter, the whole book, and having that community where you can sit and have really good conversation about the things that you're reading and the things that you're stuck on, hung up on, the things that you don't understand, the things that seem problematic for you. And you're like, wait, I don't understand. I thought God was a God of love. And then they can help point you to different places in the Bible or share their experiences, which is like the beauty of group to me. I love group for that very reason. The community, to be like a smaller community, because then you have the church, right? That's a lot of people. We can't do life with everybody, but we can do life with a select few where we can talk about these things, the things that we're battling with in our lives, the things that we're battling with as we read the Bible. And I think it's very, very helpful for me. It's very helpful.
Yeah, I definitely agree. when you're in church listening to the sermon, you're not necessarily going to be able to raise your hand and say, wait, Pastor, repeat that. Maybe you can, depends on the church. But in small group is really the place where you can have those conversations, where you can go a few verses at a time and say, what did you get here? What did this mean? And it's a non-judgmental atmosphere too, right? I think a lot of times we are afraid to ask questions. No one wants to look dumb. I say this to my students all the time. Like, if you have a question when you're sitting in your classroom, there's probably at least 5, 6 other students that have a question that also just don't want to raise their hand. So it's okay to have questions. It's okay not to get it, but be in those communities so you can.
Absolutely. It's hash it out. And when I think about, because I struggle with some things in the Bible a lot. I mean, I struggle with the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. Like, that was one that just, and I still to this day, I don't struggle with it like I did back then, but there's still some things that I struggle with. And what helped me overcome that struggle was group, talking it over with people, getting help to understand what was being said, what the character of God is, and then reading it for myself and understanding more of the character of who God is. And like, there's a purpose for this, but it's not necessarily in taking away Pharaoh's ability to choose something else, which was where I was really, really hung up on. But I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But those were just some of the things that I was hung up on, or one of the things I was hung up on when I was reading the Bible. And then when we think about how God calls us, he calls us to share the good news. And there's a verse that tells you that he calls us to share the good news. And it's going to be Matthew 28:19-20. It says, "Go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations. Help the people to learn of me, believe in me, and obey my words, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe everything that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, remaining with you perpetually." You know what that word means? Forever. Perpetually, regardless of circumstance and on every occasion, even to the end of the age. And so we are supposed to go out and share the good news. Receive the message, share the message.
Be fishers of men.
Be fishers of men. And then those men will learn to be fishers of men. We want to bear good fruit. We want to yield good crops. And that means sharing the good news. That's what it meant for the seed to fall on good soil. It's to share the good news. Now, not everyone will accept the truth. Unfortunately. We want everybody to accept the truth. But not everybody will. And that's okay. Like, it's not okay, but it's okay. Because the truth of the matter is, everybody's not going to accept it. So in 2 Timothy 4:3-4, he says, "For the time will come when people will not tolerate sound doctrine and accurate instruction that challenges them with God's truth, but wanting to have their ears tickled." That's where the phrase, if anybody's ever heard itching ears, that's where that comes from. "With something pleasing, they will accumulate for themselves many teachers, one after another, chosen to satisfy their own desire and to support the errors they hold, and will turn their ears away from the truth and will wander off into myths and man-made fictions and will accept the unacceptable." And that's where the false prophets come in. You have false teachers who will preach to every passion. And I feel like Jackie Hill Perry talked about this one time, where you have a preacher that will preach to every passion under the sun. They will preach to your sexual immorality. They will preach to lying. They will preach to riches, like the things that just make you feel great but are of the world. You have a pastor that'll be like, that's okay. That's okay. Even though God says it's not okay, they will find a way to manipulate the word to make it seem like these things are okay and God says it's okay and this is where. So you have to be very careful with false prophets, false teachers, which is why we tell you to read it for yourself. If you read it for yourself, then no one can bamboozle you. No one can trick you because you will have an understanding.
Right? You can always open up and say, I know what you're saying is not true because the Bible says this. Let me show you this verse that's contradicting what you're trying to tell me.
And then, last but not least, Trials and tribulations are a part of life. I know that's hard for us to hear sometimes because
Life be life.
all the time.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to go through trials and tribulations. Like, we want an easy life.
Mhm.
If we're being honest, no one's like, yeah, trials and tribulations over here. I'll take that. Yeah, give me some of that too. Nobody never was like, yeah, I want to go through a storm. I'm excited to go through this storm. Storm, no umbrella. I will weather it. Nobody. Not at least nobody I know. Maybe people y'all know. Nobody I know has ever said that. And so what James says, it's James 1:2-4. Consider it nothing but joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you fall into various trials. Be assured that the testing of your faith through experience produces endurance, leading to spiritual maturity and inner peace. And let endurance have its perfect result and do a thorough work so that you may be perfect and completely developed in your faith, lacking nothing. So trials and tribulations, James says to count it all joy. It's a little hard. It's a little hard.
Oh, joy.
I don't go through any trial like, yes, trials, line them up. That's not how I encounter it. I want to encounter trials like, okay, I got through one before, I'll get through this one because I have God and I know that he walks through this with me. And because I have gone through ones before, that's what builds your endurance. Like, okay, I made it through this, maybe not the same exact trial, but I've made it through a storm before. So if I got through this, I can get through this. And that's where that endurance comes up, the building of your character to be like, you know what? And to help build your faith, because it's like, okay, I trust God. He got me through that one. Because I didn't get me through any of the storms. God got me through. Every storm I've encountered, God got me through. Even the storms I've kicked and screamed through. And so now I just don't want to kick and scream through storms. And I know that's not practical. I want it to be practical. And I want to get a little bit closer to being practical with that. But I do want to just be able to go through a storm and be like, all right, God, we in the storm. I trust that we're going to get through this storm together. Let's do it.
Yes, if we could just approach things with some peace in our hearts, knowing that regardless of what the outcome is, that it is what God wanted, as opposed to hitting that trial and freaking out. Freaking out, which we do. I do. Been there. But as we continue to go through trials, to go through tribulations, and it's a reason that you hear those words so often in Christian teachings. As we go through those, we have to almost like train our muscles to be able to deal with it, to be able to say, God, I trust you. It may not be the outcome I want, but it is the outcome that you want, and you are good regardless.
Yeah. And from whatever the outcome is, even if it doesn't look like what you want, it's God pruning you, right? You're going to learn a lesson through that storm. You are going to become stronger through that storm. Like, I want to be spiritually ripped, right? We go to the gym.
I want to be
out here.
top five.
Yeah, we be out here doing things to be physically ripped, physically fit, right? We do things to be mentally prepared or mentally fit, emotionally fit. I want to be spiritually fit. And so being spiritually fit for me is reading the word, praying, staying in company with people, other believers. I'm not saying that I don't have friends that aren't believers or I can't be in the company of unbelievers, but to continue to help me remain accountable, to be able to continue to help me to grow in my spiritual walk. Like, I need to remain in the group.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, there are always ways to grow. There's not going to be a point where we wake up and say, yes, I'm the perfect Christian. I have done it in my walk. There are always things to learn. Sometimes you go back and read a verse and get something different than what you had before. There are always ways to seek Jesus and ways that he can reveal himself to you that you have yet to see. Like, it's like a big adventure.
It is. And I love adventures. I love it. I can't say I love trials and tribulations, but I do love adventures, and I want to approach trials and tribulations with that joy and that peace of God, to just be like, you know what? Regardless of what is ahead of me, I know that it's going to be okay. And me saying being okay, right, does not mean that it's going to be this outcome that I want, but it's going to be okay because God ordained it. It's going to be okay because it's God's will, and God's will is perfect. Even when it doesn't look like what I want or what I think it looks like, God's will is perfect, and he's intentional in everything that he does. So there's going to be a reason for it.
Right.
And sometimes he'll reveal that to you, and sometimes you won't find out till you find out.
Yeah. Sometimes you are along for the ride, and the road, the map will come out later.
Yep. Yep. So now it is time to spill tea. Give us your today's takeaway. And we'd love to hear from you. Put it in the comments. What are your trials and tribulations? Where do you feel like you are in your walk? Have you ever been the seed that falls on any of the other ground other than good soil? I know that at some point, trials and tribulations was wearing me loose. I mean, wearing me loose. But never to the point where I stumbled and fell away from God. But to a point where sometimes it had me questioning. Definitely had me questioning. And so we'd love to hear from you. Like, share, comment, follow, and most importantly, subscribe.
Love to see that.
Yes, absolutely. So we will catch you on the next episode. Bye.
He's the bread of life.
Alpha and Omega, our firm foundation.
Jesus! The well that never runs dry. You're still thirsty off the Henny and you wonder why. J-E-S-U-S is all you need. Wonderful counselor, mighty.